This is the fish tank setup video for the Fish in the Classroom project for the California Department of Fish and Wildlife. Some of the supplies I have are a fish tank, an aerator, an aeration tube, a thermometer, 2 bottom trays for the gravel, the chiller unit. On the chiller unit, there's a temperature control. There's a cover for the tank with a notch in it. In the bucket, there's some gravel for the bottom of the fish tank, as well as a couple bags with river rocks in them. I use the bucket to transport the fry at the end of the project to the river. When you're all done with the project, I usually get iodide for cleaning, and I have some other things that you'll have as a bowl for cleaning the rocks, some fish nets for catching the fry, a colander for draining the rocks after you clean them, and then just something helpful to have as a flashlight for looking at the alevin or sac fry. I also usually have a suction for removing any dead fry that are in the tank. 2 weeks before the eggs are set to be delivered to your classroom, you want to start setting up your tank. Make sure you have adequate counter space and an outlet for the chiller. The first thing you're going to do is place the trays and the aerator tube in the tank. The next step is to place the chiller in the tank. You'll have to be a little bit careful with the tubing, so just do your best in trying to get the chiller unit into the tank carefully. And there's a little blue temperature probe on the outside, so just make sure you're really careful with that. You don't want to break that off. You'll place the chiller behind the trays inside the tank. Once the chiller's in place, you'll want to put your gravel in on top of the gravel trays. The next step is to place the thermometer inside the tank in a place where you can easily see it at the front of the tank. The next step is to place the larger rocks inside the tank. You can either do this yourself, or you can have each student place 2 rocks in the tank. Just make sure they wash their hands and they're dry before they put the rocks in the tank. Now you'll have to set up a bowl with the aerator, and you'll put some water in the bowl, put the aerator into the bowl, and then you'll plug in the aerator to make sure that the aerator is working properly. You don't want the entire aerator to be submerged in the water. The next thing you'll do is fill the tank with bottled spring water to just below the rim of the black rim of the tank. And then you'll attach the aerator to the tank. You want to make sure that you put the little cone into the aerator tube to make sure it fits very close to the aerator. You don't want any fish to be sucked in at the top between the tube and the aerator. It can happen sometimes, though. For this particular aerator, I have had to attach it some years to the back of the tank using a piece of duct tape to hold it in place. Now you're almost all set, and all you have to do is turn on the aerator and the chiller. The chiller should be set to about 52 degrees, and the only way you're going to know if it's where it should be is when you check the thermometer in the tank after a couple of days. When the eggs arrive, you're going to need to use the blue cover to keep the light out of the tank. So make sure that it fits correctly before you put the eggs in the tank. On the day that the eggs come, you're going to make sure that you turn off the classroom lights and have the cover removed, and you'll have the person come and they will put the eggs in the front of the tank. All right, so here's how this goes. Fish are in there, and I'm going to take some of the water out of here. I cut one of these things off, and I'm going to take it and put it in this bucket over here. Getting it all over. I'm going to swirl this water around a little bit to make sure that the water in the bucket's all clean. I always clean it every year after this is over, and I'm going to dump this out. Fourteen of them. I'm going to take the bag out because it's a little bit cold now. Now that I have 14 out and they're kind of down in the rocks, I have to take out a bunch of rocks. I'm going to start doing that. Okay, so all the rocks are out, the big rocks are out, but I see that there's a dead fish in here. Oh, can you see that dead fish floating around? So there's one that didn't make it. So we'll have to count that one that didn't make it. And okay, I got 24 fish so far. I'm going to take out the chiller carefully. I'm going to take off the bubble. Take out the pipe. All right. That way I can maybe get some more fish in there. There's just a couple left. There's one over there. Maybe some down under the rocks. We'll have to see. Okay, now, oh, it's pretty bright light. Now I'm going to start to take out the little rocks. Sometimes there's fish that hide under these little black things. So if I take out all the rocks, then I can soak those up and see if there's any more fish in here, because we want them to survive, otherwise they die in there. Okay, and I'm going to take out these black things that hold them up. I found one. Told you, I knew there would be one in there. Three more. Okay, so I took out some more rocks. I got 34 little fry in here. The water temperature is kind of creeping up again, so I'm going to put this back in to get it down a little bit again. And I'm going to put the top on, which is right here. I'll put the top on in a minute, okay? Put the top on. These things I put back in here because I have to add some betadine, iodine to the water to make sure that I kill any germs for next year. So I'll just leave that there for now. And then I'm gonna take our fish, and I have to go get my certificate. I'll show it to you in a minute. Here's my paperwork that I have to carry. If I don't have this with me, that's a bad thing. So here's what I said, 34 fish, 2nd grade, American River, and we're good to go. All right, I'm gonna head out. Now we have to find a spot to release them. A little river, that the river split, so I'm gonna look over here. This pond seems a little deep, maybe a little more shallow, but I'm gonna look to see, do I see any little fish anywhere? So I'm looking for fish, because if I see any fry in the river, then I know that this is a good place to put them. So here we have some riffles. I'm looking. Ooh, I see a bunch of fry in here. Let me see if I can focus down in here. If I can get closer without scaring them. Ready? So I'm gonna go put the bucket into the water because you have to get the water temperature kind of the same before you release them, because you don't want to shock their little system. So I'm going to take the bucket, I'm going to set it here, make sure it doesn't float away though. Okay, so the water's just about the same temperature, so I'm going to take out the thermometer. Still between 50 and 60, it's 54 degrees. I'm gonna put it over here. All right, so here we go. There it is. Couldn't find it for a while. Hiding.